Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land, TikTok world, YouTube, everywhere. There's going to be a clip of this going live or recorded. Welcome to the broadcast channel, everyone. I am Monty Anderson, your host here at 412 Productions, the art of Monty Anderson. And we got lots of stuff to talk about and lots of cool stuff to show you. So, the girlfriend and I like to go to Books a Million. Since there's not a whole lot of close bookstores. There's a lot of older bookstores and stuff like that, where you can get your antique books and things of that nature. So we go to Books a Million that have a lot of the good newer books and things like that. I mean, they have a lot of older books too, but nothing that's out of print, per se. Uh, like all the reboots and reprints and all that good stuff of Stephen King's and Clive Barker's and anybody else that you want to find out there, you can find. But as far as a good bookstore, that's what we have here in the Fort Smith, Arkansas area is Books a Million, and I know they have them everywhere. They've got the BAM everywhere, which is cool. But welcome to the show, everybody. I am Monty Anderson, your host here at 412 Productions, the art of Monty Anderson. And what we talk about here is everything from entertainment to artwork, my artwork, which you see labeled here on my shirt. And let me do this before Roy gets on here or Casey and tells me, hey, flip that shit. So, welcome to the broadcast. Make sure you like, share, and follow so we can know where you are from. Well, not know where you're from, but just, see where you guys are happening from, what you guys like to do, what you guys like to talk about. What we talk about here is movies, especially horror and sci-fi, action and stuff like that. You can keep your drama movies and drama TV shows and your Hallmark channel and all that shit. We don't play that game here. And we also talk about comic books, comic book artwork. My artwork, again, that you see here. Boom, boom, boom. And you can get your own shirts and stuff like that too. We'll run down the list of the shirts that we have available at this current juncture with 17 more getting ready to hit the papers. But like I was talking about earlier, it is football season. Hopefully your team is already kicking it off right. I know that several teams that were supposed to win this past weekend did not win, just like Bill Belichick and his North Carolina team was supposed to be the victors over TCU, but they ended up getting trounced. What was it, 41-17 or something like that? So his coaching debut did not go as everybody had planned. The seven-time Super Bowl champion, Bill Belichick, and his North Carolina team fell hard to TCU. And apparently it came off of two defensive touchdowns. So, like pick six or fumble and scoop and score, whatever it was. I didn't watch the game. I could care less. It's not my team. But I do keep up with it, because certain people enjoy, you know, following Bill Belichick for whatever reason. I am not one of those. So, but hopefully your team did well in the college realm this weekend. Ours did. The Oklahoma Sooners beat up on, a high school team, just like the Arkansas Razorbacks beat up on a high school team. Um, let's see. This Thursday, the 4th, Dallas Cowboys play against the Beagles and Jalen Smirts and all them guys. So we'll see what happens then on that game, because Dallas Cowboys and the OU Sooners are my team. There you go. That's the only two football teams I follow hardcore. And let's see here. Bum, bum, bum. Lots of stuff happening. Uh, they are the person that I'm doing the commissions for. They are digging the commissions that I'm working on right now. Which you've got some Deckert and some Sora fighting in a rift against each other's counterparts right here. So that's what's going on here. And then the other one is the mashup between the Drecki and the Wolver. from God of War right there. Boom, boom, boom. So that's what's happening over here. Let's see here. Don't forget to like, share, and follow, please. That helps us out. All right, so we were talking about Books a Million, since that is the only true bookstore here in the Fort Smith area, and I wish they had some other ones. I wish Hastings was still here, because Hastings was just awesome. You could find pretty much anything you wanted to at Hastings on a regular basis, and for at that, and I mean everything from action figures to records to cards to comic books to magazines to CDs to cassettes. I mean, you had everything in the store, and it was a true all-around store when it came to entertainment purposes. And we don't have stores like that anymore. I mean, we've stopped going to antique stores here in town because it's just the same shit over and over again. There's nothing hardly ever changes in some of the booths, and it's just like, well, do we want to go this weekend or whatever? And it's just like, no, not really, because we've already done it. And the last week we were there, or 2 weeks ago, and we haven't been there in a month, and we go and, oh, look, it's the same shit. Oh, they just put out some spooky season stuff. They put out a couple of ghosts here and there on their booth, but everything else is still the same. You know, and it's just like, well, that just sucks all the way around, because we'd like to see some new stuff. That's what I like about some of the bigger towns, like in Texas and things like that. When we pass through, we hit some pretty awesome, uh, antique stores and things like that, going to different places. And we hit some that, you know, are just massive. And I wish they had those types of things around here, but I mean, they, like I said, they've got plenty of antique malls and things of that nature where you can go peruse. But as far as finding anything really good, it's hit or miss most of the time. So that's why we go to Books a Million, just to look around, see what they've got, because sometimes they do have some used books and things like that that are back on the shelf, um, and they sell them for a little bit cheaper price. Kind of like vintage stock. And vintage stock just needs to get rid of 90% of their movies. Because you can find everything that they've got pretty much on the streaming service out there somewhere, and so people aren't buying DVDs anymore for the most part. Unless it's something that they really, really follow, like Lord of the Rings or Batman or the MCU, or horror specifics. You know, I've got my horror collections of things, and it's just like, but I can find all this stuff online somewhere. It's just like the X Files that I follow. Speaking of which, a kid's book of the X Files, right there. Plus, I just noticed that now, since Fox was bought by Disney, now Aliens, the Queen Alien, is now a Disney princess. You know, and it's kind of cool because I just looked at the back of the book, and you can get Planet of the Apes, you can get Aliens, you can get Black Panther, Star Wars, all that good stuff. So a little golden book, you can get all kinds of different new books and things like that. But the best one, the X Files, I haven't even cracked this one. It's got a still got the seal on it. It hasn't been cracked at all, and I'm not going to crack it. Period. Because I'm just an X Files nut, and so X Files is my thing. I've got the big I Want to Believe poster, which I believe this one came from season 3 of the X Files, I believe, because they had 6 different posters. If you ever watched the X Files, of the I Want to Believe, which is the skyline, the horizontal, or the horizon lines. Correction, sorry, with the UFO in the sky, and they had 6 different versions of that one. I would like to get all 6 different versions of it, um, and get them, out up here. So, one of these days I will potentially have all 6 hanging in the office. And maybe it won't be this office, you know? Maybe my office will be redone as that canister or container that I was talking about. Now, on that note, while we were at Books a Million, that actually came from Walmart, or Walmart or Target, the X Files book. While we were at Books a Million, BAM, as it is well known with the big BAM letters out there, um, I didn't realize they were redoing Heavy Metal, the old magazine from the 70s and 80s, you know. And this one has Michael Moorcock's, um, you know, hero on the cover. So, you know, Elric on the cover right here. You know, this is number 2. So I'm gonna have to go find number 1 because I didn't realize they were redoing it. I used to have a bunch of the old heavy metals back in the day, and you can get a subscription to it if you really want to. The soft cover, you know, and but you know, there's so much comic book inside of one of these things, and I can't quite show everything that's in here because there is some nudity, you know, in here, and that's what drew a lot of guys to this book. Um, that almost looks like Barry Windsor Smith. Hmm. Some of those panels looked a little bit like Barry Windsor Smith work, but it's not. It's very cool stuff. I mean, if you've never been into heavy metal, you should get into it at some point in time in your life. If you like comic books and things like that, because this is nothing but phenomenal work. And I definitely can't show this page. Nothing but nudity everywhere. But you get cool stuff like this out there on a regular basis in the book. And no, that wasn't a centerfold. But heavy metal always blurred the line between lust and violence and other things of that nature. So I will be getting back into some heavy metal and probably even finding some old stuff because they even have the old issues of heavy metal out there as well. But apparently they had a ton of covers for issue number 1 and 2 now. So, but you can also get it in soft cover and hardcover. Hmm. I don't know if that's $79 a year. I'd have to check into that. But that's something to check into. If you're into comic book work and things like that in a magazine format, heavy metal is it. I don't know if anybody's ever watched any of the old movies and the cartoons and things like that that heavy metal had, you know, back in the day. But you know, they heavy metal has always been one of those groundbreaking, earth-shattering type of books. You know, when it comes through everything. I mean, blood, gore, nudity, you know, violence. It's all there. There's drama. There's action. I mean, everything you want in a comic book is here in all the different stories. Because just look at this opening page right here. This is all the different comics that are inside this. You know, plus there's some editorials and things like that in there, but this is all the different comics inside of here. So it, like it says, it is the illustrated magazine, and you know, this is just one of those things you don't want to bend up. And then I picked up Vampirus Carmilla. This is number 28, um, by Warrant Magazine. It is, of course, about a vampire. And then you've got several different books inside of one, just like Heavy Metal. But what's cool about this one is that it is all black and white. in here. And this is, basically what my comic book is going to look like when it comes out. It's going to be color covers with, black and white interiors. And I've already decided that's how I want to do it for my first book. Now, when it comes down to it, later on, you know, would I do some color in the book? Of course I would. Because people like to see the comic books in color. And if you want to become a fan of Vampirus Carmilla, you can do so by the book itself. But no, this is some cool stuff. The Frank Frazetta Art Museum is another thing to get into. You can get Shutter Magazine Fan Club, all that good stuff. But this is the stuff that I want to be doing. The crisp, clean lines, of everything that's going on here. And it's just one of those things that's why I picked up this magazine, is because, you know, um, I want this color cover on my comics. I want all this stuff. But I also want the clean, crisp black and whiteness, that you see on the inside. You know, yes, it'll be a lot of ink. Yes, it'll be this. Yes, it'll be that. But it's worth it to have that crisp, clean line that you can take in later and you know turn it into color work later on. And my freaking speed up here on my recording is sucking it up big time. Let's see what's going on over here. I don't know why. I don't know why it's going that slow up there. Other than it's still running Windows 10 when we should be running Windows 11, and maybe I'll switch back over to the other computer eventually. Who knows? We'll see. Because I get tired of all this stuff running so super behind. But it is what it is. We got lots of commissions, going on right now. I got one, two, three, four, five, six different commissions going on right now that we're working on. Two are penciled in. One is in the works of getting penciled, and then the other three are in the works of getting penciled as well. Because you can only work so fast, and you only have two hands, you know. But if you're not ambidextrous and can draw with both hands, like some people can, I cannot. I have the one hand to draw with, and I don't have my art glove on this morning, like I normally would right here. And I'm still trying to get my Gaomon tablet to work the proper way. I still haven't got that figured out yet. So I'm going to have to do some crash course classes to figure that one out. But that's all good and fine and good dandy. But I appreciate everybody stopping in, checking out the channel, and, just popping in, checking out everything. But again, football season has started. So hopefully your team did well this weekend. And like I said, the debut of Mr. Bill Belichick didn't go as well as planned as everybody thought it would at North Carolina. And so, if you're a Bill Belichick fan, I'm sorry. His team kind of faltered there big time. Like Mr. Roy, Joe, Twinkle Toes, Sparkle Butt, Bradley, Twilight Lover Jr., he's a big Belichick fan. And, he would have loved to have seen that team do well. But, they faltered, just like many did in the top 25. I think you had this weekend, which happens in college sports. I mean, even number one fell, But that's how it goes. Thursday night football kicks off, and then you've got a Friday night game, and then you've got all your slates of Sunday games for the NFL. If you still watch the NFL, I don't know. Some people just don't watch the NFL anymore because it's so political and so pussified, if you will, that most people don't like it anymore. And I get it. I mean, I totally understand. And that goes with college too. Ever since they started paying the players, and you know, now they can make almost as much as an NFL player does right off the bat in college, which is kind of crazy. I mean, they used to pay the players anyway under the table, but nobody ever knew about it. It was hush money, those type of things. So, but again, hopefully your college team is doing well out there in the realm of the winning column, just like my team did. It's not my team, but we claim them. All right, so as you can see, the shirt that I have on is based off of one of my art creations. Right here, this is the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein from, you know, the Universal Monster world. And I did a homage to the 1930s oil painting American Gothic. And this is my American Horror, as it says right down here on the bottom. American Horror. Right here. And there you have it. You can get one of these shirts if you want to. You can get it in black or you can get it in the maroon color that I've got. Some shirts of this one was just ordered in the same color that I'm wearing now. So, which is cool and fun and dandy. So, next is the number one seller that we have on the books to date. The Joker right here. This Joker is my number one top seller so far. It has been ordered the most by people out there in the world. So get yours while you can now. This was the very first painting of the Joker that I did, and it sold right off the bat. So it's gone. The original of this one gone. Now the other painting, this painting right here, is still available. You can buy this painting as it stands. But this was my first Joker. A few shirts of this have been ordered. The girlfriend actually has one of these herself. Here we have The Last Ronin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When all the turtles get killed and there's only one left to take on the moniker of them all. This was a big seller as well at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show I was at in Jonesboro at the beginning of 2024. The original sold of this one as well. It had sparkle paint back here in the background, and it was really, really cool. Hello, Casey. Good morning. How are we doing today? And we've got Chester Bennington right here. The big painting of this one is available as well. And just know that all of my shirts and things like that have canvas prints with them or 11 by 17 prints as well, paper prints, well, cardstock prints. Just know that those are available as well. Here you've got Ivan Moody of Five Finger Death Punch. There's going to be an Ozzy Osbourne piece in the works as well. And of course, you're looking at this shirt live right here. And I'm glad you're not bad, buddy. I'm glad you're still with us, just like me. And then we've got Howard the Duck, not the CGI version that you see in the MCU, but the cranky duck that you have from the comic books, the cigar smoking duck with the foul mouth. And then you've got Dexter. The girlfriend loves her shirt. She actually wore it just yesterday. She's got it in red, and I will be ordering one in black for myself. Then you got Art the Clown from Terrifier. She's got hers in red. I've got mine in black. So we have both colors representing right there. Oh, thank you for the likes. Don't forget to like, share, and follow if you don't already. And then the Crow, I've got this one in black and yellow right here. It looks really good in the yellow format. And then another hot favorite that's happening right now is the Wonder Woman Lynda Carter version on the red, because that's part of her outfit right there. Turns it into a nice piece of her outfit that goes into the red, white, and blue that she wears. And then the Bad Habits, the Naughty Nun series right here, which is becoming a fast favorite as well. Now, again, like I said, I've got 17 others that are going to be in the works as well, uh, from Bishop and Gambit and the Creep from Jeepers Creepers and things of that nature. So, we are still gearing up for the whole 2026 season, which might not happen. But the cool thing is, I do have some sponsorships in the possible works. You know, I've got to get some more details in on about that. Just because it's a friend of mine, and yes, we've reconnected in the past couple of years, but we knew each other from high school era, and which is a very very long time ago, if you don't know. And so, you know, he's got a business that would like to help sponsor, so that's a plus in and of itself. So we're going to be in the works and in the talks and see what he wants to do there. Um, but then on the other side, I do have another potential sponsor, which I'm not leery about, but I'm cautious about, just because of some of the stuff that's come to light, with him here recently. Uh, and so I'm just wanting to make sure that everything is on the up and up, and nothing's going to come back to bite us in the ass if we do join forces with him, because he'll take care of the booth, and I'll just put my or his moniker, his little, um, kind of like Marvel or DC on my stuff. So there is that to look forward to as well. Now I would be taking care of the travel and other expenses and stuff like that, plus the printing of my comic books or my artwork and things like that. But he would take care of the booth rental at whatever show we ended up at. And he's talking about going to some of the big ones, which is like in California and Orlando and up in Pennsylvania and things like that, Tennessee, some of the bigger ones, where you have some huge guest artists, like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Mark Silvestri and things of that nature, you know. So that's something to look forward to on that end as well. And so I'm just very cautious with that type of stuff, just because I don't want it to come back and bite me in the ass. Because you've associated yourself with this guy. Well, here's what's happening. So you must be in the same type of situation that he is, because this is what's going on in his life. You know, and so I'm wanting to make sure we're doing the right thing for the company whenever we do partner with somebody. Now, the other sponsorship out there, that one I'm completely fine with. We just have to do the talking, the negotiating, and see, you know, what they're wanting in return on their side, because they're really good people. They have a lot of cool stuff going on. And again, it's not my business to talk about their stuff. If you want to know about them, just get in touch with them, personally. Um, they're pretty private people. And so this partnership and sponsorship, is one that would be very lucrative on the backside, just because I wouldn't be out the booth rental, you know, on that. And thank you, Casey, for the 4.2 thousand likes at this particular juncture. I appreciate that. You are an awesome, awesome person, and not just because of the likes. You are an awesome person to come here. Find my show every week or every other day. That you can make it. I know you can't make it all the time because you're asleep, like I am sometimes for my own show. Oh, I didn't go live the past couple of times because, damn, I was asleep. My body actually said, no, you need sleep. Um, Medication doesn't help either. That the military has me on. So, I get about 5 hours of sleep a night anymore due to the new medication that they've got me on. So, but that's neither here nor there, you know. Well, I appreciate that. Casey says, I like your lives. They're different. Well, I hope so, because I've watched several lives out there, and a lot of them are the same, you know. Um, Girls with big hooters that aren't wearing bras, that have a low cut shirt or a crop top or whatever, and you're seeing their views of, 10,000 people, 10,000 plus, or, whatever. Well, I wonder how you're getting your views. And then you get the other ones that are super political posts or super political podcasts talking about all of this stuff going on in the universe right now. And then you get those that are more interesting, that are talking about the paranormal stuff, or and that's interesting to me, talking about the paranormal or cryptids or the comic book side of things, or whatever. Those that I try to follow and catch their live show, that I find more interesting. I just can't sit there and listen to a full political debriefing of, well, this is what happened today in politics, and this is what's happening today in religion, and it's just like, no, I just can't sit through it. I'm sorry. Um, and I'm not saying that I'm not a religious person. You know, I believe in what I believe in, and it's just one of those things that each individual section tries to push their opinion down your throat. You know, and you can't do that. People are going to believe what they want to believe. People are going to think what they want to think. You know, I can't be like, my opinion is the only right opinion. You can't have any other opinion than what I've got. You know, but that's how you get with a lot of people. If you don't agree with this stance or this view or whatever, then you're wrong. You are wrong 100%. You know, and it's just like, no, that you can't do that. Not in today's society, anyway. I love your art. The talent's there for sure. The talent's there for sure, and you're smart. Can't stand. Um, I'm gonna have to pull this over this way. Can't stand profane talk. You don't do it. No, I try to avoid it because I know not everybody likes to hear all the curse words that come out of people's mouths on a regular basis, and I know some live broadcasters that every other word is a curse word. You know, and or some profanity of some sort. And I know it's not just curse words that you're talking about right there. Um, but yeah, the just straight up profanity with, you know, oh well, we did this and we're gonna do this tonight, and we did it with a beer can, and that's on the Redneck channel. If you would like to find that Redneck channel, you can find it on another broadcast section of the. But no, um, but like I was talking about before you got on here, Casey, I don't know if you went back and watched any of the previous prior to you arriving or not, but found this cool kids golden book of the X Files, one of my favorite TV shows of all times, and the movies, and the card set and all that good stuff. The X Files, is the truth out there? And then I find that, since Fox was bought by Disney, that the Queen Mother alien is now a Disney princess, you know, and, and they do have A is for Alien right here, and then they've got Star Wars, and then they got Planet of the Apes. Those are some that I might actually try to find, but this one has never been cracked. It has never been opened, period, and it will never be opened by me. It will go in my bookcase as is, you know. So I will never know what's on the inside of this book, as I will not crack it open. And then we were talking about the relaunch of Heavy Metal with Michael Moorcock's Elric right here. This is issue number 2, and I'm going to go find issue number 1 and pick it up because, that's what I do. And, I always loved Heavy Metal back in the day. Heavy Metal is one of those great comic books. Blood, guts, gore, sex, all that good stuff inside there. And every boy's fantasy. But no, Heavy Metal was always a great magazine. I didn't realize that they were redoing it until I was at BAM Books a Million and found it on the shelf. It was like, no freaking way. And it was just like sold. It is expensive, to get it. And then I'm going to go look to see what their number 1 issue is and see if there's one that I want to pick up from there as well. And then I picked up Vampiris Carmilla, number 28, right here. Because this is what I want my comic book to strive for. Maybe not this big magazine format size, but what it represents on the inside is the black and white, of what I want my book to look like. That crisp, clean black and white colors on the inside without color, And that way, if I transition later into color, say the graphic novel, say I want the entire graphic novel to be in color. Well, I've got crisp, clean black lines on the inks. And so now I can take the whole book and turn it into color in the graphic novel. Or do a reprinting of issues 1 through 4 in color, And so that's what I'm looking for. And that brings what I'm looking for my comic book to life for me. And so that's why I picked that one up. Did I spend a little bit of money on those 2 books at the bookstore? Of course I did. Picked up the girlfriend a couple of books there as well that she wanted to read. And so, I wish we had better bookstores here. Just like I was talking about, I wish Hastings was still around because it was a great all-around entertainment store. From action figures to CDs to vinyl to cards to, everything was inside the comic books. Artwork, skateboards. Everything was inside of this. It's a little like vintage stock, but they didn't have nearly as many movies as vintage stock does, and that's what kills vintage stock for me, is that you're an entertainment superstore, but yet all your entertainment is DVDs, which I can find on a freaking streaming service somewhere. So why do I want the DVD? And unless you're a super hardcore fan of a specific show, like I am with X Files. I have every episode of X Files on DVD. I've got the spin-offs of The Lone Gunman. I've got Millennium. I've got the Black Oil stuff. All the little synopsis stuff that comes in that as well. I've got card sets. I've got, magazines. I've got autographed book by Anderson, not me, but another Anderson. What's his name? I can't think of what his name is. I can tell you what his name is because I've got it right here. In this, DEF CON number 3, September 6th, 7th, and 8th of 1996. Kevin J. Anderson. That's who it is, right? Yes, Kevin J. Anderson right here, who wrote a bunch of X-Files books. Mr. Kevin J. Anderson. Yes, this is autographed right there by Kevin J. Anderson. And very cool dude. But he writes a lot of Star Wars books too, and he's just an awesome dude. And I've got his autograph and on a X Files magazine, and when I met him, and so it's very cool stuff. So, but that's the type of stuff that, especially the Vampiris Camilla, that I would like to get into doing more of. because not everything has to be in color, you know. But a lot of people like their color in comics and things of that nature. So, and Casey, I like how you keep changing your profile picture on a regular basis. You know, it's always refreshing to see because not everybody changes theirs on a regular basis. I need to change mine up to a more recent photograph, you know, of the girlfriend and I. But she doesn't like her picture taken here much anymore, which I get. I mean, I understand. All right, so I'm getting closer and closer to these three commissions being done over here. Getting closer to getting started on the pet commission as well. Um, as I look forward to all this stuff, just because I'm ready to get some of this stuff off my table to clear it up so I can start some new projects. I've got my cousin is still waiting for some preliminary design work uh, for his kid's book that he's asked me to help with after us reconnecting after, I guess, 2010 was the last time we actually spoke uh, to each other because he kind of alienated the family out there um, off of lies that his father told him about his mother and some other things, and he just kind of disappeared from everybody, you know. Um, but I reached out to him. I talked to someone that I knew that was in contact with him on a semi-regular basis. I wouldn't say regular basis, but semi-regular basis, and just ask her, "Hey, is this still his viable email?" And she was like, "No, here's his new email." And I was like, "Okay, cool, thanks." So I reached out to him probably about a month ago, and he finally responded back. Within probably about 4 or 5 days, I think it was, within a week. Um, and so we've kind of been chit chatting back and forth, you know, about life and now about this book that he wants to do. So if I get that job, you know, that'll be kid book number 2 out there in the works. Um, I need to get back to another friend of mine who wanted to do a kids book a while back, but some things happened in both of our lives that didn't allow it to happen. So I need to get in contact with her again because she's already got one published kids book out there. OU Hero. You can find it on Amazon, and It's a very cool story. I've got 2 copies, one autographed, one not, and then the pack that came with it, the cape and the little masks for kids, so that they can become their own superhero, which was pretty cool. But she's got that out there. A very religious person, so don't knock her for that. But she's a very cool person. She loves to homestead and do her own things. She's a very independent female, um, and but she's a very awesome person. I like her. Do you remember the Boxcar children's book? Of course. I couldn't tell you much about it, but I can remember it. I'm pretty sure I had it as a kid myself. I had a bunch of books as a kid. Of course, then I had my stepdad's stash of magazines. We won't go there though. They tried to hide that stuff from you, but you always found it. It's just like there was a lot of kids' book back in the day that I wish I still had today, but I don't think they survived the house fire um, at the time. And if they did, my mother probably still has them in a box somewhere that smells like, you know, smoke from the house fire, just like some of her dolls and stuff like that. And that was back in what year was that? Oh, geez, 2004, 2004 or 2005, I think. I can't remember when the house fire was. I know it happened before they moved to Hugo to take care of my grandfather after my grandmother died, which was 2006, because they were still living in Bethany, Oklahoma. Yeah, I think it was like 2004, 2005, somewhere in that range, if I had to guess. I found a deck of cards that would make a sailor blush when I was a kid, hid from me. Well, my stepdad had VHS tapes of dirty stuff, and then of course the magazines and all the erotic books that he had, you know, just lying around in boxes and things like that, you know. So there was a lot of reading material out there for a young kid to find, even though they tried to hide them. You know, they were found because he had boxes upon boxes of the books. You know, the actual novels to flip through and read and spark up the imagination at that age. You know, and but no, I understand what you're talking about. My grandpa had this pen that was that was quite clever and quite humorous, but it was the nudity pen. That it was a pen actually um, made me look at my teacher in a new way. But it was a cool pen because it was double sided and it had you if you flipped it up one way, it would fill up and she looked like she had a bathing suit on. But as soon as you flipped it another way, the bathing suit disappeared, and there she was in all of her birthday suit glory, you know. And I loved that pen. He also had the lady taking the bath in the lake or whatever. Oh, the oil lamp that had the twisted fishing line basically, and the oil would come from the bottom and go to the top and rain down, so it looked like she was in the rain. And I always wanted that lamp, you know, for whatever reason, because I was fascinated as a kid. And they never dusted it though. It was pretty crummy from the oil and then the dust bunnies that were on it. And I really wish they still had that lamp though. It was a very cool lamp. I would love to have it in the house. I would hang it here in the office actually if it was still around. So I can find them, but people want astronomical money for them. I've seen some going for about $500. It's just like you got to be kidding me. You know, my grandpa had one of those. You know, I wish it was. I honestly wish it was still in existence. And it might be. It could be out in my grandpa or out in my parents' shed. You know, for all I know. But no, that would be one. That would be about the only thing that my parents have that I would really want. You know, besides the pew pews and things like that that would be passed on to us. You know, so. But yeah, no, some nostalgic stuff that I would love to have for my grandparents. You know, that would be it. You know, as far as what they had would be that lamp. You know, just to hang up and be like, click, flick it on, and here we go. Watch it rain. You know, and not make it rain. You know, those type things. But no, it's just one of those things that I was fascinated as a kid we would I would turn it on all the time because they would usually have it off, and I would go turn it on and just watch it rain. You know, and it was just a cool lamp. I would still love to have it today. You know, so and maybe say they do still have it out in the shop. You know, and if they do, it's mine. Just like my cousin brought up the fact that my grandpa had, you know, three fish mounts on his walls. He was like, you know, the three grandkids that were left, my brother, myself, and him, you know, should have ended up each getting one. And I was like, well, I think my brother ended up with all three of those. You know, I know one was kind of falling apart, and it was going to need to be redone because one was of a black bass that he caught that was a little over 5 pounds. One was of a northern pike, and I can't remember what the other one was. but the northern pike was like 12 to 15 pounds or something like that. So it was a big boy. Um, I can't remember what the other one was. It might have been another black bass too, but they were cool. He had them done up nicely and with a little placard underneath them and all that good stuff. So very very cool. One of these days, I'll have a fish worthy enough for the wall. Maybe I'm not big on the taxidermy stuff. I mean, they're cool and all, but I haven't found any that I just like. I'm gonna have, or even stuff that I've caught. I've caught some 20-pound stripers before. As a kid, fishing down at the Hugo Dam and things like that, and still didn't put it on the wall. Uh, so, and now I know they make them all out of fiberglass and things like that. They don't even use the skin of the fish like they used to, you know. But it is what it is, and it's just cool stuff. But it's just one of those things that I don't have to have it on my wall. Yeah, I've shot deers. I've got their antlers and things like that. From the bucks that I've taken during hunting season and things of that nature. But as far as needing to have the whole head on my wall, I'm okay. I'm good with that. I don't have the wall space for it anyway. And if I did, I would run into it and probably poke my eye out with the antler or something. That'd be my luck. Oh, we did move the possum enclosure inside. Yes, my girlfriend has a possum. And I created this massive dwelling for him. And we will, you know, we will have some fun with that because he's going to have a lot of room to roam around instead of the two-tier cage that he's in now. It's just a bird cage with a converted section, middle section in it, and so he's got two levels to play on. Well, this gives him a whole jungle gym to play on. The lower portion is probably 6 to 7 foot long, um, and then it's got a almost 6 foot tall tower that he can climb up into to get to his hide up there, the sleeping quarters. I do need to put a couple more doors in it um, for access when he's down at the lower section, so we don't have to stand on our head and reach under there and grab him out. Those type things. But it turned out pretty cool. It's not a professional build by any means, but it's functional. It'll do what it needs to do to give him some exercise and movement ability instead of just staying in one little area. Going up and down, and that's all he does. This gives him all kinds of different places to explore and mess around on and climb some ropes and climb some trees and all kinds of stuff. So that'll be good for him, and we'll go from there with it all. So it is cool. It is fun. And like I said, I'm looking forward to another book that I've got in the works as well with the same company, Legacy Comics, that I did this book for right here. Boom, boom, boom. And that's my cover to the job number 3. That's why there's a 3 on the front license plate of the car, if you didn't catch that. Casey, we'll talk after this, after the live. Um, I want to do something for you, bud. So we'll talk after the live. So don't go anywhere. I'm gonna hit you up in the messages. So, um, the live still have some time. We still got 10 minutes or 15 minutes or however long we're gonna go. But thank you for the 8. Is that 18 or is that 10? No, it's 18. 18.5 thousand likes out there. I appreciate that. That's awesome. That the likes, the shares, the follows, excuse me, the conversation that happens inside of here, excuse me, pushes us in this area that's under the fandom section, pushes us up on the scale. So I appreciate all that. Because that puts us in the percentile of 99% better than some of the other ones that are doing the exact same things that I'm doing. So I wonder what that chemical smell is that we all love in old comic books. It's the old ink, especially the older comic books. It's the ink itself um, that is breaking down, if you will, over time, and it releases that chemical smell that you know so well. It's just like walking into an old bookstore. You get that musty book smell, and if you've never been in an old bookstore, you don't know what that smell is. But in a new bookstore, you don't get that because you get that new crisp smell, of books. But if you walk into an old bookstore or an old comic book shop, there's just that specific smell of those old books and old comic books, and it's just the inks breaking down in the book. Even though it's still got might be a crisp, clean looking book, it's still say it's from the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s even. It has that specific smell, that specific aroma that's just like, ooh, rub it right here, rub it right here, and then you'll find out who your nerds are at that point in time. It's a pheromone for the nerds, if you will, and you'd be really surprised to find out who your nerds are. They're not who you think they are. You know, they look as normal as I do, which isn't normal at all. But no, it's yeah, I love that smell. I used to sleep with old books when I was a kid. Yeah, and that's the beauty of having old books around, because you still, like, when I walk into my library, I still get that smell. Because I've got a ton of old books from the 1800s to early 1970s and 1980s. Things like that. I mean, I've got Anne Rice's first uh, publication and first print of Interview with a Vampire, in there, and it's got that book smell, you know, and it's just like you can't beat those smells, you know. I mean, the only way you can beat it is your favorite food cooking, or whenever your favorite food is brought to the table, at a restaurant. That's about the only way you're gonna beat that old book smell, and um, it just can't be beat. I mean, the new book smell just okay. So you smell like fresh print, you know. Give you another 30 years, and you'll be basically at the old book smell, you know. And yeah, it's a very hard smell to describe if you've never smelled it, you know. But those of us that have been around long enough, or have walked into enough old bookstores, because like I said, there's several old bookstores here in town, and they deal in the old stuff from, some even have some printings from the 1700s, but they want, an arm and a leg for them, and I like both my arms and both my legs, you know. So I haven't given it over to them yet, because I find some good deals out there on some old books periodically, and let me see what that says. Da-da-da-dum. Well, some people would say if you crop dust in a Walmart, you are releasing chemicals. You know, um, that's the worst thing in the world. Somebody lets one go on an aisle and you walk into it. My mouth was open and everything. But eventually, we all will be there, Casey. Um, we will all be at that stage where we release chemicals. You know, because we won't be above ground, and that's where I keep looking at the whole recyclability of the humans. Um, Damn those tastes. LOL. Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. You know, I've walked into some, and it's just like, good lord, and I know the person's laughing on the other aisle, whatever. And I've left some for people, you know, and I kind of watch around the corner. Oh, they just hit it. But no, I've been looking at the recyclability of the human, And they've got these tree pods, if you will, the burial pods that releases you back as a tree. You know, you get buried at the roots system of this tree, and you just bloom back into a tree. You know, uh, but I mean, hell, back in the Western days, back in the 17 and 1800s, even before that, you know, people were buried in pine boxes. You know, and you were released back into the earth. But now with all the EPA regulations, we can't do that. It's just why? Why not? And then there's this TikToker out here that we all know is a serial schmiller. Um, because he lets you in on tips and tricks of how to get rid of a schmotty. Okay, and it's just like, dude, you've liquidated some people. I guarantee it, because you're letting us know that instead of going 6 foot deep, you go 3 foot deep, where the active, oxygen and organisms are, you know, and how it will spread out quicker, decompose quicker. And it's just like, dude, you have liquidated some people in your day, and they're you can't tell me otherwise. And you're out here telling us that you've liquidated some people, not like Mister Bob Ross with his happy little accidents, you know, telling us that he was a serial schmiller as well, and just he was painting where he hid his, you know, it's not true, folks, but but that's a theory. That's a fan theory, you know, that people have about Bob Ross out there. And but this dude on TikTok, 100% has liquidated some people and not got caught yet, you know. But he's blatant. He talks about it straight up, on his on his channel, on his live shows or his recordings. And one of these days he'll get found out. I'm surprised that he's not being investigated, if you will. Let's just put it that way. And yes, this is the V8, the peach mango, the only drink to drink from the V8 energy infused stuff, because it does not taste like chemicals. It is the best tasting flavor that they have. And no, I'm not a spokesperson for V8, because they are not paying me and they are not sending me freaking drinks, which they need to be. That would be awesome. But lots and lots of work is happening here. Just know it doesn't look like it, because I'm not showing artwork like I used to on a regular basis. Even like at the beginning of the year, whenever I was doing the blank comic book covers and things like that, and showing them off, and showing the process, and all that good stuff. Just know that I've got a lot of stuff that's in the works. Um, the 3 commissions that are over here, and then the comic book that I'm doing solely for Legacy Comics right here, and it's under his title Condry, which is another cool title that they've got. They've got a lot of cool titles. Patrick Hickey Jr. is a phenomenal guy out there as well. He's got a great business mind. He's a professor. He's also written a bunch of books. Um, I talked to him about that book as well to see if I even made the cut for what I was talking to him about. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But Casey, I'm going to talk to you after the show. I will send you a message here in just a minute. But as I like to say, as I leave you guys, that is it for today's show.